The existence of Georgie and Mandy's first marriage effectively reveals the real reason why young Sheldon needed to end. Months after young Sheldon was cancelled, despite its popularity, the Big Bang Theory franchise continues with the latest installment in the evolving TV franchise. Georgie and Mandy's first marriage will follow Montana Jordan and Emily Osment's lives as parents to baby Tess. Picking up a couple of months after Sheldon's move to California, it moves forward the Cooper's story in Texas. However, it has always been clear that the spin-off wouldn't happen if young Sheldon was still on the air. Unlike the majority of cancellations, young Sheldon ending wasn't because of the lack of interest from the public. Instead, it was supposedly due to the Big Bang Theory canon, which mandated that at 14, Sheldon would graduate college and move to California for his postgraduate studies at Caltech. Despite the many inconsistencies between the projects, Chuck Lorre and his team opted to stick to this particular aspect of the continuity despite calls to disregard it, so the prequel could continue. That being said, new information about Georgie and Mandy's first marriage reveals a harsher reason for young Sheldon wrapping up. In a new interview, Georgie and Mandy's first marriage showrunner, Steve Holland, cites how the new show deviates from the previous shows in the franchise. He also argues why he believes it's more relatable than young Sheldon and the Big Bang Theory. It's mainly because Georgie and Mandy's first marriage no longer centers on Sheldon. Granted that the character was entertaining and intriguing, but everything about him was heightened. That's part of his charm, but after almost 2 decades of dominating the TV universe, it was time for a change. Read his full quote below. If Lorre and his team wanted to continue young Sheldon, they could have. There was an established base that was already more invested in the family comedy drama than its connections to the Big Bang Theory. It could have become an alternate reality version of what Jim Parsons' Sheldon experienced, as he revealed in the flagship series. However, they opted to move on from the character and take a big risk of launching a new show in Georgie and Mandy's first marriage. Wrapping up young Sheldon marked the end of Sheldon's run on TV. As sad as that was, it was time for the Big Bang Theory universe to move on from the eccentric genius. For starters, Parsons has no plans of reprising the role after his brief cameo in the prequel Send-Off Flash Forward. Meanwhile, there's also no interest in tackling Sheldon's first years in Caltech without Leonard and the rest of the Pasadena gang. Because of this, expanding beyond the character is the best way to ensure the universe's sustainability moving forward. Young Sheldon was an American sitcom that garnered much attention as it took fans deep into the childhood years of Sheldon Cooper, the socially awkward and scientifically brilliant character introduced in the Big Bang Theory. Spanning multiple seasons, young Sheldon found a unique niche, blending humor, warmth, and the complexities of family life in East Texas. But the show's conclusion came as a surprise to many, leaving viewers wondering about the reasons behind the abrupt end. However, the events surrounding Georgie and Mandy's first marriage offer a compelling argument for why young Sheldon had to come to a close, and how this union revealed the very heart of the show's narrative arc. Georgie's growth and his role in the story. Georgie Cooper, Sheldon's older brother, always stood in the background of the Big Bang Theory universe. A character mostly remembered for his teenage years in young Sheldon, Georgie was often portrayed as the typical rebellious and misfit older sibling. Despite being humorous and occasionally troublesome, Georgie's character was layered with a distinct kind of emotional complexity. As young Sheldon progressed, viewers got glimpses of his future struggles with relationships, responsibilities, and aspirations. However, it was not until the series delved into his life with Mandy that the true significance of Georgie's character arc became clear. Georgie's marriage to Mandy symbolizes a pivotal moment in young Sheldon's exploration of the family dynamic. Although not the academic genius like Sheldon, Georgie had his own journey of maturation, and the complexities of life outside the realm of academia were crucial to the show's success. As he navigated relationships, finances, and family obligations, viewers began to see the real-world challenges that many young people face, struggles that Sheldon could never fully comprehend. Georgie and Mandy's first marriage was more than just a plot device to move the story forward. It represented the final stage in Georgie's transformation from a carefree teen to a man grappling with adult responsibilities. This union acted as the emotional anchor for his character, showcasing how far he had come from his earlier days. And in a larger context, it revealed that young Sheldon was gradually moving towards the inevitable conclusion of its story. It was clear that Georgie's growth had come full circle. Mandy's influence and the role of family dynamics. Mandy, a character who first appeared as Georgie's girlfriend, brought a certain warmth and depth to Georgie's otherwise chaotic life. Their on-and-off relationship mirrored the trials and tribulations of young love, but it was their eventual marriage that solidified Mandy's impact on Georgie's life and on the show's storyline as a whole. Throughout their tumultuous relationship, Mandy pushed Georgie to confront the uncomfortable realities of adulthood, responsibility, parenthood, and the consequences of his actions. Mandy's influence was not limited to her role in Georgie's life, however. She also helped reveal the broader themes of young Sheldon, especially concerning family. The relationship between Georgie and Mandy served as a microcosm of the challenges that the Cooper family faced: miscommunication, differing priorities, and conflicting desires. As a result, their marriage was a culmination of not only Georgie's personal journey, but of the family dynamic that had been central to young Sheldon since the beginning. With their marriage, the show touched on the importance of family unity, the sacrifices made for loved ones, and the sometimes difficult process of reconciliation. These moments were often balanced with humor, but they also provided emotional depth, highlighting the ways in which young Sheldon had always explored the complexity of human relationships. As such, the marriage of Georgie and Mandy wasn't just a plotline. It was a reflection of the core values that had made young Sheldon both relatable and beloved by audiences. The show's shift from Sheldon's childhood to Georgie's adulthood. Another factor contributing to the inevitable end of young Sheldon was the show's shifting focus from Sheldon's childhood to the realities of adulthood, as represented by Georgie's marriage and the couple's growing family. The show's early seasons revolved around Sheldon's awkward interactions with those around him, particularly his family members. This created a dynamic that was both heartwarming and humorous, as Sheldon struggled to understand and fit into a world that often seemed perplexing and alien to him. However, as Sheldon aged, the show began to shift its attention to the other characters around him, particularly Georgie and Mandy. Their relationship became a focal point as the show began exploring the complexities of relationships, love, and maturity. This marked a significant shift in young Sheldon's narrative direction, moving away from the innocent and quirky experiences of a young Sheldon and instead focusing on the sometimes messy, unpredictable nature of adulthood. The shift in focus was not just a natural evolution of the story. It was also a clear indication that the show was nearing its end. The show had explored all the avenues it could with Sheldon's childhood, and now the focus on Georgie's marriage served as the show's final narrative arc. The decision to center the story around Georgie and Mandy's relationship confirmed that young Sheldon had run its course and could no longer sustain the same type of storytelling. Thematic implications and conclusion. At its core, young Sheldon was always about family, growth, and finding one's place in the world. Through Sheldon's academic genius, the show explored the challenges of being a gifted child in a world that often doesn't understand you. It also portrayed the ways in which family dynamics can both support and hinder personal growth. With Sheldon as the central figure, the show offered a humorous, heartfelt, and ultimately poignant portrayal of what it means to be different, and how love, family, and relationships help us navigate those differences. But as the show progressed, it became clear that Sheldon's story was nearing its natural conclusion. With the introduction of Georgie and Mandy's marriage, young Sheldon began exploring themes of adulthood, responsibility, and the trials of building a life outside the shadow of academic brilliance. It was the final phase of Sheldon's family story, moving away from the quirky, childhood-driven plotlines and towards the realities of adult life.